Uh, I do not use a PowerPoint because power corrupts the politicians and PowerPoint corrupts the academics. I don't want to have a prepared presentation because then you are pushing your thoughts onto other people. I would rather want to respond to whatever has happened before. And actually, in terms of what the Chairman Bhaskar Chatterjee has raised, there is lots of issues for debate really. And to say in 10 minutes something can only be 20 points for further debate. So that's what I will probably do. I will try to break new ground by trying to suggest things that can be done, things which are not illegal, not immoral, but only need to be done. So let me begin very quickly by some of the things, and I am building on each of them without obviously acknowledging every time because that will take more time. But when I was in IIT Kanpur and Professor Sampath was the director, he had a very interesting expression to say. He said, when a student joins IIT Kanpur, that day his soul migrates to the US. 4 years later, his body follows. Now, the point that we are trying to say is that if we create an education system where on the day a person joins the system, his soul knows what it wants to do, then at the end of the system, he will start doing that. Whereas what we end up having typically is a set of people who have no idea why they're there, what they're doing, what they're studying. They want to bunk classes, they don't want to make use of faculty time, and so on and so forth. Contrast this with a university. All of you must have got degrees from some university, and there must be a very solemn convocation where the Vice Chancellor says, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Vice Chancellor, I confer upon you the degree of Master of such and charge you to be worthy of the same. You're very excited, clap, red, yellow, black gowns, and you go out of the door, and what does it say? Welcome to unemployability. Because that is what Rajiv said, barely 5% of the people are employable. We need to actually ask, how did this 5% become employable? Because the system was basically designed for unemployability. Now, when you start analyzing why this 5% became employable, you come to the kind of skills which were identified earlier. They had good communication skills, they had good team working skills, they had good information seeking skills, they had good logical skills, they had good presence of mind, they could live by their wits. All these skills which the university did not teach, also did not prevent from being formed. Because university prevents a lot of reasoning, logical skills from being formed, that actually leads to employability. So in a sense what we are doing is, we are distilling now for skills for employability and hoping to put them on top to a larger number of people. See, what is development or progress all about? See, primitive way of living is where you depend upon naturally occurring resources. So our education system is a system where we look for naturally occurring good students, naturally occurring good faculty, put them on a good campus and hope that good learning happens. It happens. So you have 5 IITs, 3 IIMs, etc. But it is not replicable, it is not scalable, it is not even sustainable because no longer good faculty comes to you, no longer good student come to you, and so on. So if you want a system which is replicable, scalable, and sustainable, and is meant for the challenges that we have, I want to suggest to you a few fundamental design changes. Our system was always designed as a work of art. The teacher was like an artisan. He practiced a craft, and as a teacher, I would like to continue doing the same. I'd like to read what I like to learn. And I enjoy that, and I will share with people. You know, the kind of legal rights that should accrue to people who go to Mars, and the one who lands first, whether he should get a right or not, are the kind of questions I'd like to debate on, speculate on. But the world is looking for more real problems. Now, what has therefore happened is that we need to consciously make that change. So I want to say a few things. As I said, they can all be open to debate, but there are ideas. First thing, we must remember again and again that the current university system was born in times before the printing press. The university in Bologna, the university in Paris, university in Oxford, all this came before the Gutenberg press. Therefore, the importance of the professor who had access to the handwritten manuscripts of the leading thinkers in that field would read from that manuscript to the students and everybody would copy. Now, in the post-internet blogging-oriented world to have the same model, and even the IITs think it's a great model, that I will show myself, people will listen to me and they will learn. It's a completely outdated model. The other reason why it is an outdated model is that the current education system is meant for a very homogeneous group of learners. Now, if that IIT lecture is given to 100,000 students who don't have the preparation, they will not even understand the jokes. I mean, my very first joke will not be understood by those people. When I tell them the body migrates, soul migrates, they won't even understand the joke. Forget the technology. So therefore, scaling a system which is meant for a few, too many, is of no use. So what are we talking about? We are talking about redesigning, going back to the design board. And in a sense, this is triggering that mechanism because we are people of all things. So what is the first parameter we are talking? We are talking of a system of mass education. Therefore, every system must teach 1 million students. If it doesn't teach 1 million students, it should not be considered legitimate or worthwhile or whatever. In contrast, the AICT said don't teach more than 60 students at a time. See, we have in India a very prestigious institute, National Institute of Design. How many people does it teach at a batch? 60, 100. What are 60 designers for a country like this? And then we want to compete in the global economy. So the important statement I want to say is that the post-WTO, post-internet, and I want to add now post-9/11, world is a very different world than the world in which the University of Bologna was formed. Now, if this is a very different world, then the models and designs have to be different. I mean, you just look. The transistor was discovered 50 years ago. Today, it is 1/1,000,000th smaller than the original transistor. Flying was discovered 100 years ago. You compare the Wright aircraft plane with the planes on which you fly from here to 15 hours, 300 people sleeping comfortably, some of them who can pay for it, and so on and so forth. And our education system is 700 years old, and we want to religiously preserve that, like an ancient herrick. I mean, we have these education fundamentalists who do not want that method should be compromised with, because somehow the teacher as sage on the stage seems to be very critical, although we all know that a whole lot of learning happens by itself. This is again a myth we created. We say Guru Govind dono khade, we say Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu. All this myth is created to tell you can't learn without my assistance. But the fact is, and Dr. Pathak said, every child learns a very complicated language, because it could be any of the 200 languages, almost effortlessly. Anyway, so the point I'm trying to say is, and this is very critical, that when you have 1 million students, and students are all different. See, the whole thing about the examination system, the IIT and the CAT, etc., is you want a homogeneous set of people who are like you. Now, reality is that all people are different in terms of their learning styles. I mean, Howard Gardner talked about 8 kinds of intelligences. There are multiple learning styles. Some people are inductive, some are deductive, some are people who are kinesthetic, who would like to move their hands. We tell everybody, don't fidget, be quiet, listen to me, draw attention, etc. There is a story in one of these where they took a young girl and they found she was very fidgety. The teacher asked her, can you go and create a description of the alphabets by dance steps? Next day, she was the first one to come to school. She said, this is A, this is B, this is C, whatever. And she was very happy. She could write her name through the dancing. And that helped her actually learn writing. The reason we have huge dropouts, Mr. Pant mentioned about it, is the learning style that we are giving is not the teaching style that we are giving is not matching the learning style of the learner. So this is the basic problem. Now, if you have 1 million students, and if you're going to teach this 10 crore people, even that 10% of people who are different amounts to a large number. Only 5 to 10% will align with your mainstream method of teaching. So having said this, what am I saying? I'm saying that technology allows you to do this. Now, we've all seen the success of Microsoft is already here, but let's therefore say Google and many others and Oracle and so on, where they've serviced millions of people to solve their problems. So what we are saying is a technology-based system. If it is going to make 1 million copies of the same CD, it's not going to work. Because only 10% will pass, the rest won't. But if the system itself, like my Yahoo, my this thing, allows you to customize your learning. Everybody said it has learning pathways. Look at different languages, different ways. Some people are audio oriented. Some people want somebody else to explain. Some people give me the stuff, I'll read, whatever. Now, if all this is available and people can pick and choose, and as was said by Mr. Pant, to take small steps in progressing, then everybody can learn to get the outcomes. So the bell curve that we have as an output is unacceptable. It's interesting, the IITs, which claim to be the best institutions, as an educational institution, are complete trash. Because they take a delta function of students and create a bell curve out of it. Why should anybody fail? I mean, see, it's like I take all your people's wealth, make Mr. Pathak very rich, and make everybody else poor. That's no use. But the IIT still has people who get F. And what is worse, when you get F, they throw you out. See, rather than their failure, you had a person who came with 97%. He got an F. And who gets thrown out? Not the faculty, the student. It's like saying that you create a hospital where you will admit only healthy patients. So you say, you are too ill to be treated here, please go away. You are the healthiest, you come in and we will claim credit that we got very healthy people outside our hospital. So the point I'm trying to say is that when we are looking at million people going through a non-traumatic transition to the knowledge and skills economy, then the training model has to be different. Fortunately for us, all the bits and pieces are there. See, when you look at medical science, the way you were treated today for...
I hate to say this, but...
Progress is made because the outcomes of medical research are applied to medical practice. What I'm saying is, whatever exists in the educational research, there are so many people who are doing PhD, it's all buried in journals. Like the pharmacy industry, let us pick them out of the journals, create products and services, bring them so that everybody can learn. And when you have this model for 1 million, you apply it for teachers, you apply for engineering college teachers, you apply for elementary school teachers, and I'm told that the challenge for India is actually teaching 103 million people. So 100 times you have to replicate. Last, with some possible extension on the time, I want to suggest that, you see, we have this huge thing. I mean, this is a very good time because Lehman Brothers is collapsing, the financial industry is collapsing, IIM Ahmedabad is wondering how will that 1 crore salary come next year, and so on. And I really want to suggest here that education is also a very big employer. This is the part that we've missed. In fact, what Dr. Pathak said is what I also thought. Let the BPO industry close down. Let that Obama say that we don't want any outsourcing. So only Premji will suffer a little bit, Raman Roy will suffer a little bit. All the BPO fellows are class 12th pass. We will retrain them as elementary school teachers. They will get retrained using technology because they're very familiar with it. And in 6 months' time, they're ready to go and we have 1 million teachers on hand. When the economy improves, they can come back to whatever, but the transition part has been done. And those people being laid off by Naresh Goyal and our Mallya and so on, we can use them for managerial support. See, if they can manage an aircraft and look at all the various parameters on the screen where they're piloting, they can become used for management information system where they create a dashboard and see whether Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan is progressing, etc., etc. So I wanted to end this story on a happy note that education really is today, for the next 10 years, a great